Welcome to This Explainer. Look, if you're watching this, chances are you or maybe someone you really care about has just gotten a Meniere's disease or a vestibular diagnosis. And I just want to start by saying, I know. I know how incredibly overwhelming that can be. When your very sense of balance and your hearing are suddenly compromised, it's completely normal to feel scared and, well, totally out of control. But hey, today, I'm going to act as your peer mentor. We're going to break down the science, decode all that intimidating medical jargon, and give you the practical tools you need to take your power back. You're not alone in this, and we are absolutely going to get through it together. All right, let's dive right in, because I want to start with a question that honestly might sound a little bizarre. What does your salt shaker have to do with your hearing? It kind of messes with your head, right? I mean, when we think of salt, we immediately think of blood pressure or heart health. We definitely don't think about our ears. But as we're going to explore today, the choices we make in the kitchen at dinner time can literally echo inside our heads. The link between your diet and your ability to hear and balance is very, very real. To keep us perfectly on track, here's our roadmap for today. We'll navigate your new diagnosis, check out the inner ear battery, and understand your medical toolkit. Then, we'll hit the grocery aisle, reclaim your kitchen, and finally, talk about adjusting and moving forward. So, let's jump right into Section 1, navigating your new diagnosis and making sense of those scary symptoms. You know the feeling. You might have woken up one morning with this sudden, intense feeling of fullness or pressure in your ear. Maybe you're hearing a low-pitched roaring or ringing, tinnitus, that just won't quit. Or maybe you've experienced that terrifying, room-spinning sensation of severe vertigo. These symptoms strike out of nowhere, but I promise you they aren't a mystery. Medically, this is known as endolymphatic hydrops. It's a big word, but it simply means there is an abnormal, harmful accumulation and swelling of a very specific fluid called endolymph right inside your inner ear. The easiest way to visualize this, picture a tiny water balloon jammed inside the rigid bone of your skull. When that balloon gets filled just a little too tight with fluid, it bulges, and all that excess pressure squishes the incredibly delicate sensory cells responsible for your hearing and your balance, which basically disrupts absolutely everything. That brings us to Section 2, the inner ear battery, and the science of that inner ear fluid. To really understand why that water balloon is swelling up, we've got to look at that endolymph fluid. It relies on a remarkably delicate balance of electrolytes. Specifically, it needs to be very high in potassium and very low in sodium. There's this highly vascularized tissue in there called the stria vascularis, and it acts as your literal cochlear battery. It actively pumps potassium to create a massive electrical charge, the endocochlear potential, which is what actually powers your sense of hearing. It's an amazing system. But when excess sodium enters your bloodstream from, say, a salty meal, it throws a massive wrench into this delicate pumping machinery. It disrupts the gradient, causing water to flood into the endolymph to dilute the salt. That directly spikes the pressure in this delicate system. Basically, your cochlear battery gets totally flooded. So let's look at Section 3, understanding your medical toolkit and how your prescriptions help fix that. When that intense pressure hits and your hearing drops, your doctor is likely going to step in with some specific medical solutions. You'll commonly see two main approaches here. On one side, we have diuretics. Think of diuretics as pulling the drain plug to safely let some water out of that overfilled balloon. They help your kidneys pull excess salt and fluid out of your entire body, which indirectly lowers that intense pressure inside the inner ear. On the flip side, we have medications like beta-histine. If diuretics drain the balloon, beta-histine is kind of like opening up the pipes. It dilates the blood vessels to improve microcirculation specifically in the stria vascularis, helping your body regulate and absorb that endolymph fluid much more efficiently. Both of these are fantastic tools for managing that physical pressure. Moving on to Section 4, navigating the grocery aisle and taking control of your diet. Now, medications are only half the battle. The absolute best, most sustainable way to manage your inner ear fluid and keep that cochlear battery running smoothly is through your daily dietary blueprint. You literally have the power to stop the pressure before it even starts. And the absolutely crucial thing to remember is this number right here, 2,300 milligrams. Get this, that is the exact amount of sodium hiding in just one single teaspoon of table salt. Think about that for a second. If your doctor has diagnosed you with Meniere's or hydrops, they've likely put you on a restricted sodium diet, which limits you to somewhere between 1,500 and 2,000 milligrams for the entire day. That means a single teaspoon of salt blows right past your absolute maximum daily allowance. It is shocking how fast it adds up. And you know, the real danger isn't even the salt shaker on your table. Actually, scratch that. It's the grocery store shelves. Let me be your guide here.
You have to watch out for these hidden sodium traps that catch everybody off guard. I'm talking about things like canned soups, bacon and cured meats, soy sauce, fast food, processed frozen dinners, and even condiments like pickles and olives. Because salt is used as a highly effective and insanely cheap preservative and flavor enhancer, food manufacturers just pump it into almost everything that comes in a box, a bag, or a can.
But hey, you can totally outsmart the system. Your absolute greatest weapon is the nutrition label. A really solid rule of thumb, which is actually backed by the FDA, is to look for foods that have less than 140 milligrams of sodium per serving. But here's the critical warning, and you gotta remember this. Always check the serving size math. If a can of soup says it has 140 milligrams per serving, but the serving size is half a cup, and you pour out a whole cup for lunch, boom! You've just doubled your sodium intake without even realizing it. Read the label, check the serving size, and do the math.
Which brings us to Section 5, Reclaiming Your Kitchen, aka the Flavor Comeback.
I know what you might be thinking. Am I destined to eat boring, tasteless food for the rest of my life? Let me reassure you right now. Going low sodium absolutely does not mean giving up delicious food. Not even close. It just comes down to a few practical steps. First, take the salt shaker off the table. Just get rid of it. Second, adapt foods by cooking fresh. Fresh meats, poultry, and vegetables naturally contain very little sodium. Swap that boxed rice pilaf for some fresh potatoes. Third, read every packaged label. And if you want to make all this taste incredible, start leaning heavily on fresh herbs, fresh garlic, onions, and bright citrus like lemon and lime. A quick squeeze of fresh lemon juice over a piece of grilled chicken packs a massive flavor punch that wakes up your palate with literally zero added sodium. And this totally applies when you're dining out too. You can navigate restaurant menus with total confidence by simply asking for sauces on the side or requesting unseasoned grilled proteins with a lemon wedge. Easy.
Finally, Section 6, Adjusting and Moving Forward, and Building that Long-Term Confidence. I do want to acknowledge that this initial transition, it's tough. The struggle with food tasting a bit bland in those first few weeks is completely valid. Your brain is used to a massive salt rush, but I want to offer you some very real hope. Look at this brilliant quote from the Heart Failure Society of America. These folks are absolute experts in sodium restriction. They say, it may take weeks before you enjoy the taste of low-sodium foods, but your taste buds will adjust. Eventually, you may not even miss the salt. Guys, this is a proven biological fact. Your palate isn't broken. It just needs a little time. In a few short weeks, it will physically reset itself. Things that used to taste totally normal are suddenly going to taste overwhelmingly, unpleasantly salty to you. You just have to push through that initial adjustment period. I promise it gets better.
So, we've decoded the mystery of those sudden symptoms, we've dug into the intricate science of your cochlear battery, and we've talked about how you can manage that fluid pressure right from your very own kitchen. I want to leave you with a thought to chew on. Knowing what you know now, knowing how deeply salt impacts your inner ear, your sense of balance, and your ability to hear the world around you, what high-sodium favorite are you going to swap out for a fresh alternative today? You are capable, you are equipped with the facts, and you are entirely ready to take control of your health. Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and keep learning.